I-STEP testing is right around the corner. We'll hear more from Jasper school officials, plus Carrie Schneider is back with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, and Francie Smith discusses this weekend's polar plunge in Petersburg tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. The Indiana General Assembly has once again made changes to I-STEP, and Jasper school officials are among those with concerns. During last night's school board meeting, Greater Jasper Superintendent Dr. Tracy Lori outlined several of those concerns. Earlier in the day, Governor Mike Pence and state lawmakers signed off on a bill that would shorten the revamped I-STEP Plus test by just over 3 hours. Testing time was slated to take 12 hours prior to that decision. Lori says shortening the test is a good thing. However, she says the length of the test is not the biggest problem that schools are facing.
Resolution at this point is for students to take one of the two sections of either the math or the language arts. And so the problem then exists that not every student in the state of Indiana is taking the exact same test, and so it makes comparison of student performance, accountability for schools questionable in our eyes.
Lori told the school board the changes will likely delay the release of test scores for this year. Of course, in the Hoosier State, test scores are directly linked to teacher and school evaluations, something Lori says needs to change.
I-STEP is a very high-stakes test. There's a lot of pressure for students to perform by the students themselves, for the teachers, for the school, and for the district. And so assessment for the purposes of trying to gauge what's important in instruction for the student is great, but high-stakes tests with a lot of high-stakes decisions are troubling.
Another provision in yesterday's bill waives a state law that requires the Indiana Department of Education to release non-multiple choice or true-false questions for parents to review. State officials say this cuts down on the number of required pilot questions. Now, the 2015 I-STEP test is slated to get underway tomorrow. More than 450,000 students statewide in grades 3 through 8 will be taking this year's test. Work on new senior housing at the former St. Joseph's Hospital building in Huntingburg is moving along, but the project now has additional help from the county. Last night, the DuBois County Council voted to advertise $100,000 in extra support for the project. Pete Schweigerat with Cincinnati-based firm Miller Valentine Group told the council changes in construction costs led to the shortfall. He told the council the project is being largely funded by a $500,000 affordable housing program grant from the state, along with $300,000 from the city of Huntingburg. However, Schweigerat says the cost of construction on the project has gone up by $1 million, thus the need for the additional funding. The building has also seen some deterioration recently, with the sprinkler system failing and some parts of the hospital building taking on water. Schweigerat says in spite of the funding shortfall, the project remains on schedule.
We'd anticipated started construction through the winter, but when you're starting in the winter, you normally don't get off to a good start until spring anyway. So really getting started in advance of spring is going to allow us to keep our schedule.
Now, Miller Valentine will be buying 30,000 square feet of the former St. Joseph's Hospital building for this project. Schweigerat says that purchase should be closed by the end of this week. Construction could begin next month, and the project is expected to be completed early next year. The shuffle in leadership is continuing at Kimball International. Earlier today, company officials announced that Thomas Tischhauser has been elected to serve as Kimball's first ever lead independent director. He was chosen during the board of directors' regular meeting last Tuesday. Kimball officials say Tischhauser will be chairing non-management executive sessions of the board, along with acting as a liaison between the board and executive management, and act as chairman of the board when the current chairman is not able to attend meetings, among other roles. Tischhauser is a former executive at Motorola. He has served on Kimball International's board of directors since 2008. During that time, he has served on the board's audit committee as well as on the compensation and governance committee. Well, there's bad news on the table for those of you hoping for Sunday alcohol sales to become a reality this year. Republican Tom Derby, who is sponsoring the bill in the House, said earlier today there are not enough votes for the bill to pass, thus it is dead for this legislative session. The issue has pitted grocery chains and convenience store owners against liquor stores over proposed restrictions on where alcohol could be displayed and sold. The bill called for grocery stores and pharmacies to keep beer and wine in one designated area of a store and the store liquor behind the counter. This is the first year that legislation to lift the state's 80-year-old ban on Sunday alcohol sales had made it so far in the legislature. Indiana has the last statewide blue law prohibiting Sunday retail sales of beer and other alcohol. And finally tonight, though Democrats have no official candidates for Indiana governor in 2016, former House Speaker John Gregg says he's gathering information about another run. Gregg went to Washington, D.C. earlier this month as a guest of the Democrat Governors National Association. Gregg says he will make his decision sooner rather than later, though he did not lay out a specific timeline. Gregg is asking Hoosiers to follow his Gregg for Governor Facebook page. All right, coming up after the break, Carrie is in next with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, plus your local forecast, sports with Kurt Gooksell, and Inform with Francie Smith. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.